This is a very important meeting simply because it is coming at a time when the government is considering the opening of schools and institutions, specifically focusing on candidate classes. And really the issue is whether we are ready for this and what have we put in place to be able to say that schools can begin. So I'm looking forward to a lively discussion and the contribution from the members, which will be of great help, especially the Minister of Education, in implementing the guidelines that are being developed and seeing how best we can work with the all institutions at all levels to make sure that the learners are not only secure, but also safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. An opportunity time we shall give you space to talk to the participants of this meeting.
Thank you.
Dr. Mwonge, ensure that we can hear you clearly, and Gertrude, as you will be co-facilitating this meeting. Just say hello to people. Vincent.
All right, Doctor, thank you so much for yet again hosting this webinar. I am Vincent Mwangi, and I want to welcome all our participants to this meeting. Thank you so much, Dr. Kabugo and Dr. Cleophas. You are most welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mwangi. I'll ask you to, once you are done, I'll ask you to unmute yourself so that we avoid the echo in the background. And whenever you want to come in again, you can always unmute yourself. Yes, Gertrude.
Yes, Doctor, thank you very much for hosting this meeting. I want to take this opportunity to welcome our Commissioner for joining us in these deliberations that we're going to make. And I also want to thank the participants for accepting to be part of this meeting that is going to discuss on crucial things. I wish you nice deliberations and a good meeting. I remain Gertrude Nambi.
Thank you very much, Gertrude. I'll ask you to mute yourself as well for the moment. The noise that you hear in the background is from the chicken I rear at home, the local chicken. So during the lockdown, I was not totally locked down. So you will bear with me for the sound, the noise that is in the background. Dear Commissioner, before we begin today's meeting, I would like to share with you some background upon which we are holding these meetings. The purpose of today's meeting is actually one: assessing our institution's readiness to reopen. So that is the main agenda. That is the main point on our agenda today. But before we go into sharing with us about our institution's readiness to reopen, I would like to, for your own benefit in today's meeting, I'd like to share with you the background. Dear Commissioners, you are aware on 18th of March, all education institutions in Uganda were closed due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. And consequently, over 10 million students in pre-primary, primary, secondary schools and tertiary education institutions in Uganda are out of school. This is what we all know now. But the outbreak and the outbreak of the pandemic and the subsequent institutional closure did not only lock out students, but also teachers. About 8,000 teachers are at home. But we know also that although the teachers are at home and although the learners are at home, your ministry has challenged us as teachers and teacher educators to increasingly innovate and foster students' learning during school closure. Now, this is the background upon which we are holding these important capacity building webinars. As Makerere University, we could not just sit back until institutions would reopen, but also adhering to your important call for us to continue supporting students and institutions to support learners to learn during institutional closure. So we suggested that one way in which we could continue supporting institutions to foster students' learning during the institutional closure would be to hold such meetings. I'm happy to report that for now we have held a number of trainings. We have held a number of trainings, especially on Zoom. We know that there are a number of web-based training platforms, including Meeting, Google, so there are so many, but we chose on Zoom. And for record purposes, either Gertrude or Vincent can remind us how many trainings we have conducted. Vincent, how many trainings have we conducted? How many capacity development workshops have we conducted on the webinar?
Oh, yes, I was unmuting myself. We have so far held 3 trainings, Doctor, with our principal stakeholders, and we have built capacity, especially on how they can enhance pedagogical skills for continued learning during this institutional closure.
Do we want to say more about these trainings? Yes.
The first training we held was about enhancing teacher interactions, teacher-student interaction, basically through the usage of Google Classrooms. We also held another one because we thought we would want our students and teachers to use the readily available low-cost resources and technologies. So we went into social media, and here specifically we trained our tutors on how to utilize WhatsApp, because WhatsApp is ready with us. We are familiar with it, and I am very sure even students have a lot of knowledge on how to use WhatsApp. So we explored WhatsApp on how to create WhatsApp classrooms, so to support learning while students are at home. And lastly, we also held a training on how we can utilize Facebook. Facebook has gotten several features that if well utilized by tutors and students, we can actually promote active engagement. We can shift from face-to-face classrooms or learning to online learning just by the usage of Facebook. So these are the three basically that we have held, and I want to report that we are going to continue with more trainings so we can enable learning take place even amidst this COVID-19 crisis.
Thank you very much, Vincent, for that recap on what we have so far done in terms of capacity building for our institutions. Dear Commissioner, I want to report to you that as Makerere University, we have curated a number of resources, created a website where we shared a number of important resources with our institution. I am sharing this website so that you can see what we have been doing. This is a website that has a number of our education disruption and responses by Makerere University Early Childhood Development Program. What we did, we shared a number of these resources with our institutions, supporting the teaching and learning during COVID. We shared these resources, including the Ministry of Education framework for provision of continuing learning, the Parents' Post Guide to support children's learning, and then because we know that a number of our institutions do not have these resources while they are training the caregivers and the preschool teachers, we were able to collect and curate a number of modular self-paced learning materials, which the institutions we are sure have accessed. So a number of the courses, the modules that our caregivers and preschool teachers at a certificate level are meant to engage with are here. All of them are open materials which institutions are accessing free of charge. So as Dr. Monge has recounted, we have had 3 different web-based trainings supporting tutors on how to develop interactive learning materials using low-cost technologies. We have shared recordings on our website, and the institutions can still access these recordings after that training. This website has a number of these resources, including the PowerPoint. The first one that we had was about rethinking early childhood development programming and provision in Uganda during the COVID pandemic. I particularly made that opening webinar. Then the other was to foster students' learning. And many more, including using virtual classrooms. Here we focused on using Google Classrooms to support students' learning. And then, of course, like Vincent has said, using WhatsApp in pedagogically effective ways. And our most recent was about using Facebook to support and build the capacity of our collaborating ECD teacher training institutions at Makerere University to be able to foster their students' learning during the pandemic. So by large, I want to report that we have been able to live up to the challenge that your ministry tasked us to respond to. Now about what we are becoming. It might be of your interest and your ministry to note that we are now morphing into an online community of practice of ECD teacher educators. And to me, this is an important landmark. It's a milestone because prior to the pandemic, we had a challenge that institutions had never of capacity building, the urgency of rethinking their pedagogical practices. But because of the pandemic, of course, it has gotten a number of challenges. But the opportunity that the pandemic has created is that, at least for us as the ECD teacher educators, we are now morphing into an online community of practice, a community that is fostering learning. We are learning from each other using these via these web-based trainings, and increasingly, when you see the kind of interaction as we shall share with you in the recordings, the identity of us as teacher educators in the area of pre-primary education, in the area of ECD, is strengthening. Our practice is also being consolidated because we are creating lots of artifacts around fostering teacher trainees learning during the pandemic. And the interesting bit is that we are learning as we are doing. There's nothing theoretical. I mean, while we have some theoretical points of views to share, what we do mostly is to learn by doing. Every training has been hands-on. We have been demonstrating. And in essence, we are getting a lot of meaning. Our meaning making around ECD programming and provisioning in Uganda is significantly changing. This is what I am noticing from the comments that the participants usually give us. We are becoming a very strong community. The thoughts that education is being disrupted are genuine thoughts, but we need also to count on the positive effects of the pandemic, at least as the ECD fraternity. So our sense of belonging as ECD teachers is strong, and our learning experiences are varied. So then, I want to quickly move on to the essence of today's meeting. We know that, as we all know, that the president of Uganda recently proposed the lifting of the lockdown, and we definitely know why institutions should reopen despite the threat. And this is what we are outlining here. Why should ECD teacher training institutions reopen? We think that, and we know, we are concerned that marginalized children, such as those that are affected by conflicts and other protracted crises, including those who are migrating, including those who have been forcibly displaced. We take the example of our ECD teachers, our students in Kasese who have been forcibly displaced by the floods, a number of our minor children, a number of children living with disabilities. all of these children who were here in the school and have been forced out of school due to this pandemic are most likely never going to re-enroll for school because of this pandemic. If the closure is continued, these children, these marginalized children, are more at a risk. They need to go back to school. Children from the poorest households are even 5 times more likely to be out of school if the pandemic is continued. And you see that the effect of the pandemic on our economic status is sharply paining. Children from poorest households are most likely never going to re-enroll to school if the lockdown is not lifted. We are concerned about these kinds of people, but also the children who are at the risk of being raped. These cases are really alarming. Every day on televisions, we hear of children being raped. Cases of child pregnancies are rising. Cases of child marriages are rising. And our children are also being forced into labor. They are sources of labor now that they are out of school. The institutions, our schools, our institutions need to immediately open for as long as we have guidelines. The impact of the lockdown is very severe. We know that also essential government services such as immunization, blood donations, etc., which are usually done at school-based levels, will stop. And we know these are essential services. So without students being in school, other essential government services will also significantly be affected. And then we know that while some effort is being done by your ministry, by teachers to provide self-study materials, to teach on TV, to teach on radios, but you know, face-to-face interactions are very important. I mean, face-to-face teaching is very important. With these provisional means of teaching, we have very limited learner content interactions. And by the way, to note, that stress and anxieties due to loss of peer interaction and disrupted routines for children will increase. I have a case of my children here. Every time you see it on their faces, I mean, the tension, the anxiety of when they'll get back to school is painted on their faces. The need to reopen ECD institutions and other institutions in the country is urgent, Commissioner. This is what we want to share with you. But you see, despite the urgency for opening institutions, the question of safety of our children, of our teachers, of our communities, of our parents is critical. The purpose of today's meeting is to ask ourselves to reflect on our own readiness. What is going to happen when the president says that institutions can now reopen on Monday? The question is, are our institutions ready? Yes, we have done the trainings, we have done some basic capacity building, there are all these interventions, but how ready are our institutions to reopen? The purpose, which is the purpose of today's meeting, Commissioner. So then, we want to share this as university, particularly the ECD section, we are asking this question: how ready are our institutions to reopen? We know that Ministry of Education is yet to provide detailed guidelines on how institutions are going to open. But because we have created this space, it's good enough to get us engaged as we wait for ministry's guidance. We need to ask ourselves how ready we are, and basing on UNESCO'S framework for schools reopening, we have proposed a number of guidelines. We proposed a number of minimum standards guidelines for institutions to reopen, which we wanted, or which we now want our institutions to think through as we wait for other guidelines from the ministry. So the purpose of today's meeting is to discuss these guidelines, and I have shared these guidelines in our Q&A and in our polls. I will now launch the poll where a number of these questions need to be answered by the institutions. I have launched now the poll, so people can begin to poll on these questions. We need to know, institutions need to tell us that they have a strong communication and coordination mechanism or strategies that will promote dialogue and engagement during with the children and their parents, education authorities, and stakeholders. Because we think for institutions to really meaningfully open, there should be strong communication mechanisms. Parents need to know how safe their children are while at school. That means institutions will need very strong communication mechanisms in place. We know of how our private institutions can hardly communicate even to the parents. So this idea is very important now than ever before. To have strong communication mechanisms. We are asking institutions to indicate whether they have adequate safe water, hand washing stations, and cleaning supplies. May institutions indicate how ready they are on this point. So the poll is open for us all. I'm encouraging all the participants to move to the section of polling and then begin to answer these very important questions. Then we can share a broader picture of their responses and determine how ready we are. Prior to this meeting, Commissioner, I gave out a Google form whose responses we now want to share, because I have seen a number of institutions have already submitted their responses. So I'm going to share the results of the Google form responses as we wait for the polling to continue within Zoom. Vincent, did you want to send the Google form response, or now? I have it here. I will quickly populate it. I need to see that we have okay. So this is the form that we distributed to the principals, to the tutors, and we called it the COVID-19 minimum standards guides for partial and full opening or reopening of education institutions. How ready is your school stroke institution? So the institution, someone needs to agree or disagree to participate in this survey. I will agree and then click on next. I'm doing this as I wait for you to poll in within Google Forms. So here we ask the institution its location, and we say maybe a peri-urban or urban, and then the ownership of the institution, maybe it's a government, maybe it's an NGO, maybe it's private, and then they go on to next. They would have to use this scale of 1 to 5 to either strongly disagree, say undecided, agree, or strongly agree to the following statements. That please indicate the extent to which your institution will be able to comply with the following minimum standards or guidelines before opening or partially opening. And then one such parameters we are suggesting for your consideration is that an institution has a strong communication, coordination, mechanism, strategies to promote dialogue and engagement with children and parents and other education authorities and stakeholders. So probably I assume that the institution has a strong mechanism for communication. They have adequate water, hand washing stations, and cleaning supplies. Probably they have, probably they don't. Based on my experiences, I don't want to bias anyone here, but I would say institutions are not good at that yet. Adequate, safe, segregated toilets or latrines, including provision of menstrual hygiene management. My experience visiting ECD institutions shows that a number of them have shared toilets. You know the risk this can bring. Males and females go to the same toilets, and who knows what this could do when the institutions reopen. That they have trained administrative staff and teachers on implementing the physical distancing and school hygiene practices. Institutions need to have administrative staff and teachers who are trained in the concept of physical distancing. I'm hesitant to bring the concept of social distancing, as I'm thinking it's kind of misleading. So, do institutions have trained staff to implement physical distancing? Maybe yes, maybe yes. Then trained cleaning staff, they have trained cleaning staff on disinfection and have equipped them with the personal protection equipment. We need to listen to the institutions. The institutions have provided school leaders with clear guidance to establish procedures if students or staff become unwell. This is what we need to listen to institutions say and share here. That the institutions have guided school leaders on how to monitor student and staff health, maintaining regular contact with the local health authorities, and updating emergency plans and contact lists. Maybe yes, that they have space to temporarily separate sick students and staff without creating stigma. The school has or will share procedures with the parents and students, including advising them on sick students and staff to remain home. We have shared this up to 25. We have proposed up to 25 minimum guidelines, which we think that they are for the good of our ECD fraternity. So we are going to share with you our proposal, dear Commissioner, for your consideration. We know that the ministry is considering such guidelines. So then I will quickly share the results that we have we have gotten so far, the responses that we have gotten so far from the institutions. So far, as you can see, we have gotten 9 responses, but maybe by the end of the training, we shall have more responses. We need these responses just to inform our understanding of how ready the institutions are for the reopening. So all of the 9 have consented to filling the survey. And we have an equally distributed number of institutions in urban, peri-urban, and rural. So the distribution is equal here. So then we have a fairly adequate understanding. We can fairly generalize whatever results we are going to see here, that they are evenly distributed. They are given by institutions from urban, peri-urban, and rural settings. As you can see here, the institutions that have so far responded to the survey are all 88.9% are private institutions. And maybe this would make a lot of meaning. You would want to infer from this. And then the other government, 11.1% are government. But that also tells you that ECD is largely in the hands of the private sector. So any decisions that need to be made guiding these institutions we need to be cognizant of the fact that our ECD institutions are owned by private institutions. So they have whatever implications the guidelines. I mean, the guidelines should be cognizant of the fact that ECD institutions are likely in the hands of the private sector. Yes, so please indicate the extent to which your institution will be able to comply with the following guidelines. So I need to also needed to see the ongoing poll. At least 40% of the current, our participants in the webinar have so far voted. For us to make meaning of the data in here, we need to have at least, I think, at least 50%. So I'm encouraging the rest of the participants to really engage in the poll. Yeah, so dear Commissioner, this is what we have so far done, and we are really keen to understanding the views of the institutions regarding their readiness. Before you joined the meeting, you had intimated that you want us to share the deliberations of this meeting, which we can gladly share because you can see how the polling is happening. It's a democratic process, and the results of this survey will really be genuine and will really be informative in as far as guiding your department, your ministry to open us or delay the opening of our institutions. At this point, I would like to submit and end my opening remarks at this point, and thereafter invite you to talk to the participants. After your remarks, we shall welcome concerns from the participants. This is not a usual web-based training, participants. It is a meeting. So with those few remarks, may I take this honor to invite the Commissioner to talk to us. After he has talked to us, we shall open the floor for discussions, and then we shall give a way forward and then end the meeting. It's now my honor to invite you, Commissioner, to talk to us. Vincent, I am sure you are in the background, and Gertrude addressing, engaging or supporting the participants in any other technical ways possible. May I welcome you, Commissioner, to talk to the participants. Dr. Cleophas?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kabugo, for what you called brief remarks. I would like to join you in welcoming all the participants who are on this webinar. I'm quite impressed by the great work you have been doing during this lockdown to ensure that the ECDC training institutions remain active and engaged to ensure that the trainees continue getting education services. I would like, first of all, to address myself to what the ministry is doing as a way of sharing with you. When the president announced the close of schools on 18th March 2020, immediately a COVID task force for Ministry of Education and Sports had already been put in place, and then worked around to ensure that we come up with the Ministry of Education COVID Preparedness and Response Plan. Now, this response plan is basically focusing on two areas. One, continuity of learning during the lockdown, and secondly, preparing institutions for reopening after the lockdown. Ladies and gentlemen, part of the response plan included a budget. And the response plan of the Ministry of Education has a budget to the tune of $28 million US. However, the World Bank promised a grant of $20 million US, and I'm happy to inform you that Uganda has submitted an application for that grant. The unfortunate part of it is that the grant of $20 million US is focusing on basic education. That is basically pre-primary, primary, and secondary education, leaving out the other institutions. That is basically the business, technical, vocational education, the teacher education institutions, and higher institutions of learning, and finally the universities. However, the universities have also been tasked to look for alternative sources of funding to be able to address issues related to the opening of universities at that level. So the committee, the task force, is composed of 15 members, including the Executive Director of National Council for Higher Education, who represents the interests of universities and other tertiary institutions. We've been meeting quite regularly to address issues, and as I talk, we have now, following the President's directive, we are working on the draft guidelines for opening institutions and also the schools and institutions calendar. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say that every dark cloud has a silver lining. Whereas we have suffered a lot during the lockdown, but also COVID-19 pandemic has presented us with an opportunity to rethink about our own education system. It is a bit unfortunate that even universities are not able to continue teaching during this lockdown because online teaching and the infrastructure are not yet developed. I think now, as Minister of Education, and I think the government needs to swing into action to see how some of these innovations that have been created during the lockdown can be sustained and also integrated within our education system so that they are continually used by the learners. I'm impressed about the virtual classrooms and also the website for the where our learners can access learning materials. I'm very happy that Facebook and WhatsApp are being used now to promote learning. The common practice in this country is to use Facebook and WhatsApp for other uses, rumor mongering and other things. But I'm happy that as Makerere University, you have found a better use for these platforms. One of the challenges that we still have as Minister of Education is the perception of COVID-19. You must have seen some messages on WhatsApp groups where somebody says that COVID-19 started as a virus in China. It spread to Europe as a pandemic, and it came to Uganda as a business. So the perception of our people, because God has been on our side and we have not been able to lose a single person. To some people, they don't believe that COVID is a very severe and serious problem that should be handled carefully. And if you move around this country, you'll find that issues of social distancing and other mitigation measures are not being followed very well. In spite of that, given the importance of life, it is important that education institutions take precaution measures seriously to protect the lives of learners. Ministry of Health is supposed to come up with standard operating procedures on which we shall base to further fine-tune our guidelines to ensure that when really the schools finally open, we can be able to ensure the safety and the health of our learners. I'm happy about the online poll, which has been launched, and it is going to provide information regarding how ready our institutions are. My only question is whether these guidelines somehow fit within our basic requirements and minimum standards given our level of development. The issues which Dr. Kabugo raised, why EC teacher training institutions should open, are valid. However, we also have some bit of challenges. Number one, whereas some of these institutions are collaborating, I don't want to use the word affiliated, are collaborating with Makerere University, a good number of them are not licensed. So if they are not licensed, that means they don't meet the basic requirements and the minimum standards. Two, some of those that were licensed, their licenses have expired, and therefore they have not renewed them because they don't meet the basic requirements and the minimum standards. And most of the support that is likely to come from government and other development partners appear to be focusing on basic education and public institutions, leaving out the private institutions. The question is, do these schools have the resources to put in place these basic requirements? Two, whereas in this meeting, you have really come out to voice the concerns of ECD teacher training institutions, themselves through their associations have been quiet throughout all this period. You must have watched on TV how some associations like Principals Association of Uganda, that is an association that brings together all principals of primary teacher colleges, made an offer. ASHU, Association of Secondary School Head Teachers, also made an offer. But the association that brings together ECD training institution has remained quiet. I know that some of the tutors and the principals who teach in these institutions don't have food. But this association has made an appeal we have been engaged in various meetings where we also expected the voice of the ECD teacher training institution to come out, but it is not coming out because maybe of the leadership or because possibly they have not been given the opportunity to participate. So my appeal to you as Makerere University and the other institutions that collaborate with you in the area of ECD is to see how we can build a stronger voice on issues of ECD to make sure that they are also prioritized. For example, you must have heard what happened in Parliament when Honorable Muingo was responding to issues on the floor. Members were concerned that when the president was talking about candidate classes, they missed the top class. According to the MP's top class is also a candidate class because the learners from top class are supposed to graduate in order to be promoted to primary one. Similarly, when you look at the list of the candidates, much emphasis is being put on PLE, UCE, UACE, and then universities. The challenge there is where are we putting the candidates who are supposed to complete their courses in the various ECD training institutions? Who is voicing their concerns and how are these being addressed? Colleagues, I want to thank you for this opportunity. I don't want to take a lot of time because other people have also to contribute. Thank you for your kind attention. Hello.
Yes, I'd like to thank you so much, Commissioner, for your wonderful remarks. You shared some hope, but you also raised a number of questions. As we wait for ministry's guidance, as ECD sector, we also need to play our part. Every time, dear Commissioner, every time we hold such meetings, the issue of our association comes to surface. I don't know where our ECD died from. We have the potential to resurrect the association, but maybe we need now to strongly take it upon ourselves, because look, if we don't care, nobody's going to care. We have to start somewhere. The way we started these online trainings as Makerere University is the way another group and other equally concerned institution in the area of ECD should take, concern. I don't know what your guidance would be, but we had limited our influence as Makerere University in the matters of the association. Because if Makerere, again, if someone like me went into the matters of ECD, then we would not be building capacity for these institutions. We'd like someone from the audience to come out strongly and say for certain where ECD is. We would assume that ECD by now would be giving support to government, because this is how we lobby from government. You raise very serious concerns, and may I take this opportunity now, Commissioner, to allow participants to raise a few questions, especially if you can, for certain say that my institution is ready this way, my institution is not ready to reopen this way, and or if you have any questions for us to clarify on. Can you raise up your hands as our practice usually is? Please try to be precise and to the point. Yes, Richard. Yes, Mogalu, Richard. Richard, you put up your hand. I have permitted you to talk and you are not talking. Yes, Edmond.
Thank you very much, Doctor. This is Edmond from Modern Nursery Teachers Institute, Usunju, private institution. Thank you very much, Mr. Doctor. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the Commissioner for the highlights he has put. However, as private institutions, we have some challenges also, especially challenge of licensing and the unity in the under umbrella of ECDTIA. You raised the sensitive question about ECDTIA, and ECDTIA has got also challenges because some of the members that were under, they were governing the association, diverted a bit, and they did not elect, they delayed to elect the government, which brought some confusion, I may say, or problems and challenges in the association. Thus, leading an association a bit dormant, not working very well. If I recall the meeting we held at the university, you highlighted about the same, and we started reorganizing ourselves to formulate another, government for the ECDTIA. As I talk, the government is not there, but we elected some tentative cabinet to work on the association so that we may get government for the association and start working on this. But because of the pandemic, we could not continue. And hopefully after this pandemic, we are likely to resume and put structures for the ECDTIA. As members, we have those challenges, but when we put the structures, we are likely to resume the association and collaborate with other universities as it was. Thank you very much. This is my reparation.
Thank you very much, Edmond. I don't know which position Edmond has in ECDTIA, but these are the promises you have always made that you are going to make ECDTIA functional again. We need ECDTIA now than ever before. If we are still grappling with financing, and government has financing, but government does not see ECDTIA's relevancy. We are always saying the private ECDs in the private sector, we all have interest in ECD as a private sector, and we need government to support it. But government has priorities, as you could hear the commissioner say. So, and priorities are, and government's priorities are where the institution is responsive. So government is not going to look for ECDTIA. Government, we should have that business sense in our organization, that we have to be relevant. Every time we meet here, the commissioner is saying, come ECDTIA. come Ekiditia, Ekiditia is not coming. I was asking the commissioner whether I can be part of Ekiditia while I run the ECD program at Makerere University. And in our chat room, it seems to be saying Makerere needs to have a strong leadership in Ekiditia. But you see there, maybe we can provide guidance, but would be overwhelmed as well. But I need someone to come out strongly to respond to the commissioner for certain. I will allow Robert, and after Robert, I will allow Patricia Nambalirwa, Principal Ndega PTC. Robert, please. Robert? When I try to unmute you, Robert, you mute yourself. So can you unmute yourself? Okay, I'll move to someone else. Patricia.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, Patricia, we can hear you.
Yes, I'm Nambalirwa Jane Patricia from the Gaya Primary Teachers College, a principal. I would like to thank you, Dr. Karugo, for the efforts that you have availed to us as teacher trainers. And as far as Ekiditia Association is concerned, I think that it is us as the institutions who can come together and we make an election of the leaders of the Ekiditia once again, because if it failed, then we can come up again and we elect our leaders so that they can have an association. Actually, if Makerere comes in to lead, then it will be doing a double kind of work. I think it is better for the principals of the associations to go again and we elect an association leadership so that we can move on. That is how we can be seen an association. Because as some people are affiliated to Chogo, others are affiliated somewhere else, others are affiliated to Ele. If we all can come together under the umbrella of Ekiditia, then I think we'll be a little bit far and stronger than other associations. Thank you very much, Commissioner, for the highlights.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jen, for your submission. Can we listen from Robert? Robert, you.
Yes, Doctor. Yes, Doctor.
Yes.
My name is Odongo Robert of First Line Institute, Kampala. I'll begin with whether we are ready to open or not. Since the institutions were closed down on a short notice, and we abruptly left our institutions, that meant that there were no proper ground that were left behind such that when we come back, we can begin off immediately. Therefore, we needed a lot of time to prepare. And this one will be based on the guidelines that will be issued by the Minister of Education and the Minister of Health, such that we can know whether we have the capacity to reopen, because most of our institutions are still limping, and therefore reopening without basing on the guidelines of the Ministry of Education will be dangerous on the health of our students and our staff members. Then when I get back on the issue of Ekiditia, when we're in Makerere, we kind of resolved to have a committee in place that would pressure the executive committee of Ekiditia to begin being active. And I happen to be one of the members who were elected, and we met with the other members, and we resolved that we would come up with a pressure group that would pressure Ekiditia to begin performing its own duty. And indeed, when we formed this group and we called for a meeting in Maganjo, immediately the Ekiditia Executive Committee also called for a meeting. And we discussed in our meeting that if it does not begin working actively, we would go ahead and call the members and we elect a new executive committee that would drive the activities of Ekiditia. But then our chairperson was in touch with the chairperson of Ekiditia, who were holding a meeting in Madrasa. And the two agreed to share the outcome of the meeting. So when the two met, they never brought back the information to tell us whether they agreed forward. And that's how it has been quiet up to now. And when COVID came in, everything came to a standstill. However, there is a pressure group committee which is pressurizing the executive committee of Ekiditia to begin working. If it doesn't work, then we can have to jump into action and we move the situation forward. I thank you so much.
Thank you, Robert, for your submission. I need someone to... I have some technical glitch. I'll have to mute some people so that we avoid the echo. Some people had deliberately unmuted themselves and they're not talking. So let me unmute. Let me mute some people here. Yes, can I see somebody's hand up? Okulo, you are in the background and have unmuted yourself. Please talk to us.
Hello.
Lamek?
Lamek.
Yes, please. Okay.
Yes. Thank you very much, Doctor and Commissioner. I hope you're hearing me clear. Hello?
Yes, we can hear
Hello?
you.
Yes, we can hear. Thank you. I just want to make a quick recount on probably what has happened about Ekiditia so that members can know what transpired. We held a meeting last year before COVID-19 pandemic caused a mess in the whole country, in the whole world. And in that meeting, the General Secretary attended, the Vice Chair, myself attended, and some other executive members, most of the members in the executive attended, including the chairperson. We were surprised through the General Secretary, who handed a letter to us telling us that the chairperson had written a resignation letter. And this was an executive meeting. We said, this is a funny thing. We never expected that. The meeting was particularly only to see how Ekiditia probably could be revived. We didn't expect a handover or somebody writing a resignation letter. We told her in our small meeting, we are not going to accept your resignation letter until we call the whole body. So probably that is as executive, that is how it ended. We rejected the resolution of the chairperson. And we told her we are going to the body and we can present her resignation. That is the state of Ekiditia as for now as we talk. It is only because of the pandemic. If the pandemic had ended, probably we would constitute the General Secretary with his mandate would call a meeting for all the principals and directors of institutions so that we see a way out to revive Ekiditia. Thank you very much. Hello.
Thank you so much, Lamek, for your submission. As you might be noting, dear Commissioner, it seems that before the pandemic, there were efforts to revive Ekiditia.
Exactly.
But look, Lamek, the pandemic is no excuse to not continue Ekiditia work. We need this kind of thinking. Look here, we have a number of participants in today's workshop.
Yes,
you don't need to physically meet. Where there is will, where there is strong will, you can make things happen. We have been having these trainings online. Why wouldn't the management of Ekiditia think about these online meetings? You don't need to do much. Working with a Google document to rethink, reshape your constitution, to elect, the elections can still happen. If you need our support, we can. But as Makerere University, we cannot. Commissioner says we can guide. We can only guide, but we cannot do Ekiditia work. You see, if you needed elections, and these elections are backed up by your constitution, the elections can happen online. The polling we are doing now, the polling right now. I mean, somehow we need to do something, Lamek. Ekiditia, we need to do something. The commissioner is saying here in our chat room, if you can read, UNICEF would like to support Ekiditia, but because Ekiditia, there's a confusion. I'm reading verbatim, Commissioner, what you have written. Other members may not be reading the chats. You are saying that UNICEF would like to support Ekiditia, but because of the confusion there, we cannot make a headway. Who is the chairperson? If we could know the chairperson, the secretary, and who else, then we can push you people to get what you want. We cannot claim, we cannot say that we don't have funds. You cannot tell Makerere that you people, we need the money. I mean, you're not going to get Makerere money. Government is looking for Ekiditia. UNICEF is looking for Ekiditia, and you cannot see this lying fruit.
It's okay. Thank you, Doctor.
Lamek,
I'm getting you clear.
Lamek, we need a very active administration of Ekiditia.
It's true. It's true.
Get to me if you need any support to work online to revive Ekiditia.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I'll get in touch with
Please.
the person and the General Secretary, and we'll link up with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We have. Okay. Vincent, because the commissioner wants to come back, so you could say something recent, and then we let the commissioner respond to the issues.
All right, Doctor. I want to thank you so much and our dear commissioner for sparing time to meet with us. and especially with our ECD stakeholders. I think this has been an opportune moment for us, especially to contribute to the minister guidelines before the lockdown is uplifted. I thank the participants for their contributions, and by populating the guidelines, then we have made our stand. We have contributed and we have showed readiness, and therefore we should be ready to abide by the ministry guidelines after they are published. I want again to thank you so much, our dear Commissioner, for engaging with us and the rest of the participants. I submit.
Thank you, Dr. Mwonge. You see, this is the same thing that we are tasking Ekiditia. As Makerere University, we know that Ministry of Education is in the process of issuing these guidelines, yes. But you see, you will not as a Ekiditia just sit back and say, let us wait for ministry's guideline. You see, when we made our proposal to ministry, when we shared these guidelines, ministry is already appreciating this submission and is going to consider some of these submissions as they issue these guidelines. So we are making, as university, if you could borrow it from us, we are making our submission, our contribution to the ministry. So ministry is ready to work with us. Where are you, Ekiditia? Are you just waiting for ministry to give you guidance and you are the biggest stakeholders in the ECD sector? I mean, this is why I am concerned. This is why ministry is concerned. This is why UNICEF is concerned. So these are the issues we are talking about. Yes, Dr. Cleophas.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kabugo. Colleagues, I think it is high time that we rethink the position of Ekiditia. We have talked about Ekiditia for quite a long time, and we seem not to be making a headway. I know that there are challenges within the leadership, because some of the leaders of Ekiditia were affiliated to Makerere, and then later on crossed over to Kyambogo. So we seem to have two committees running the same association. Those who are affiliated to Makerere University, saying we are members of Ekiditia, and those affiliated to Kyambogo University, saying we are also members of Ekiditia. Colleagues, in the near future, the ECD policy is going to be approved, and the focus will now move to ECD. How does government support the private sector to implement the ECD policy? Now, unless we are organized as ECD teacher training institutions, we shall not benefit from the support from development partners. For example, UNICEF wanted to hire a full-time person to hire the premises and to put there a full-time person to coordinate the activities of Ekiditia. We missed that opportunity because we are an organized group. I wanted to ask the interim committee, today is Saturday, you put down something regarding your proposals for opening schools, so that this proposal is sent to the PS, so that he gets to know that we have a group of people who are offering services and this is their contribution. I'm very happy and I want to congratulate Dr. Kabugo for having invited me to this meeting. I actually even shared these ideas with the commission at yet, and they said that is very good. So we're also going to benefit from the ideas from Makerere University. Every person during this time is trying to make a contribution. We must be part of the success story at the end of the day. We are now celebrating the opening of schools, when finally the lockdown ceases to be in place. And we must say, at least this was our contribution. This constitution is not cast in stone. If the constitution, what does the constitution say? Should we have a life executive, like a life presidency? So, colleagues, I want to challenge the colleagues in Ekidetia who are attending this meeting. You have my contacts. Let us work with the Dr. Kabugo and myself to see how things can move. Because honestly, if I think it is now close almost to a year since we talked about streamlining the management and the governance of the Ekidetia executive, and nothing seems to be moving forward. Now, Dr. Kabugo, my concern is how do we enhance the capacity of these ECD training institutions? I know some don't have the desk equipment like a desktop. And yet that is an essential. I know that, for example, UCC, Uganda Communications Commission, has been giving desktops to secondary schools and other institutions. Is there a way that Makerere University can work with Ekidetia and also put in a proposal to Uganda Communications Commission to explore if these teacher training institutions can be supported? Because whereas ECD in the hands of the private sector, but the children under our care are not private. They are citizens of this country and they are entitled to the same services like the children in the public sector. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you, Commissioner, once again. And now, especially for the last submission, I am eager to take that the idea on. I am sure that I have a strong team that if we chose to write a proposal tonight about requesting for equipment from UCC, this is a proposal we can submit latest by Wednesday. What do you think, Dr. Mwonge?
You are right, Doctor. We can work it out in the interest of time, so we don't miss out that opportunity as well. So we can have to coordinate with the Ekidetia that is available, so we can also secure such equipment from UCC. It is actually an opportunity that we should utilize immediately.
I am going to immediately develop a Google document for our proposal, writing up maybe a 5-pager or 6-pager, and then we can share with our commissioner. So whoever would be interested, because if we can ask for certain the skeletal bit of the management of Ekidetia, who are we going to involve in this proposal? Because I don't want to leave it hanging. I will ask Vincent, please task the admin to schedule that activity for us, that proposed activity for us. I am sure admin is taking also note. So immediately after the meeting, we can begin the proposal process. maybe I can ask Martin. Martin is here and is very silent. Mr. Kasidia. Mr. Kasidia. Martin? Okay, I'll allow Emmanuel Oppo, please talk to us. Emmanuel, we are running out of time. Just unmute yourself. Okay, some of us are really struggling with their tools. So when I try to unmute you mute yourself. Mr. Kasidia?
Yes, please.
Please talk to us.
Greetings to everybody. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I have been following up, but I've got challenge with the network. I'm on and off. All the same. Hello?
Mr. Kasidia, just to talk, we are listening, we are hearing you well. Okay,
please. Okay, I've been following, and it's unfortunate I've been on and off, but the issues of the commissioner, I've been following the issue of Ekiditia. Ekiditia, sincerely, it has remained a Makerere thing, whereas it involves other universities. Now, whenever we meet about Makerere issues, then other institutions think that they cannot work with us, since even the chairperson is not a member of Makerere. Therefore, we have no administration as of now. I am the secretary, but I don't have an institution. Now, as an honorary member, I have done my level best, but whoever put in place does not work. We had a vetting committee, did not take up. We had a pressure group, did not take up, and I left the thing there. It does not have a chairperson, and the secretary now is out. But with the proposal, we have done several of these things, and we are being told that Ekiditia is not legal because the proprietors are different from the managers now. We have a problem, and we need to receipt. So the earlier we meet, the better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kasidia, for that submission.
Yes, please. Thank you.
We, in the interest of time, I think we have a few minutes to end our meeting. And I can see a number of hands up. I'll pick randomly now. I thought Patrick, Mr. Ginya called Patrick.
Yes, Doctor. Thank you very much for this webinar. My concern is about the in-service program. Now that the government has said candidates should go back to the institution in order to complete their courses, we are grateful. Now we have our CEC3. They were supposed to complete their course this May. And I want to hear from the university, what program do you have for the candidate classes for the in-service program, so that we can also see how to prepare for them to complete their courses. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ginyakol. Your input is on universities' arrangements for the in-service students. I will ask the admin to respond to that quickly. Admin, but we are all aware that we are any actions, any of our actions are pending the Ministry of Education guidelines, final guidelines. But as university, I would like to say that we are very much ready. We gave you some guidance on our website, and we advised that students do these continuous assessment activities. But everything now is subject to ministry's guidance, but maybe the program admin can come in. Gertrude or Vincent, do you want to respond to Mr. Patrick Ginyakol?
Gertrude?
Yes, Gertrude.
Yes, Doctor. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Yes,
Mr. Ginyakol, we thank you.
It's not an...
Gertrude, please come in through.
Mr. Ginyakol, we want to thank you for that concern. However, as Doctor has mentioned, our actions as the university are still pending. We are still waiting for the response from the ministry. But on our side, we are very much prepared. We are planning on very many activities as per our year program. And we wanted to wait for the ministry to give us feedback, and then we reschedule the dates for the different activities. We are yet to release our revised circular for the finals, for example. But still, we wanted to get some concerns from you about your preparedness your preparedness in line with the government idea of reopening schools. So I'm concluding that we are prepared as the university, and we are yet to discuss more on how we are going to engage you in the different activities.
Gertrude, do you want to say in the most specific terms what activities you are ready to roll out immediately after the reopening of institutions? Could that be Tuesday, or which dates? Maybe what Mr. Ginyakol wants to hear is that the first activity for in-service students would be materials display, something like that.
Oh, okay. Okay, Doctor. Yes, whereas we have a number of activities, we have 5 activities, for example. We have materials display, we have school practice, we have registration, and then mocks and final exams. As per now, we are assuming that in case all goes well, after the reopening of schools for candidates, we shall have registration. We are yet to finalize that circular and release it. We have registration for students, and as we had communicated in the first circular that continuing students will not register, we shall just have registration for CC students, that is for pre-service. So Mr. Ginyakol, for your continuing students, all of them are registered. We shall just have to confirm the information we have together with your tutors and you as the principal. We are also planning on carrying out materials display. It was our call to all institutions that you encourage students, go home, be home and prepare they innovate on the materials that they will display immediately they are back to school. So we are also planning on doing that just after 2 weeks, in case all goes well. After 2 weeks of reopening, we shall have to assess students in materials display. For the rest of the activities, like school practice, mocks and exams, we shall give further guidance in line with what the ministry will have come out with regarding the reopening of institutions and schools. Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, I thank you, Gertrude. I think that is some useful information for Patrick. And we have encouraged institutions to regularly visit our website for detailed guidance. I think immediately after the release of ministry guidelines, we shall accordingly adjust our calendar and issue a circular. Thank you, Gertrude.
You're welcome, Doctor. Thank you, too.
I saw Vincent coming in. It is already time. Vincent?
No, it was just an addition on what Gertrude has just ably put out. So okay. You may not need to come in, Doctor.
All right. Lastly, Akech, did you want to say something?
Yes, Doctor.
Yes, Cecilia, Akech.
Yeah, my hand was not up, but I just want to appreciate the members' contributions, and I want to encourage the leadership of Ekiditia to work hand in hand with you as doctor in the lead of this ECD, so that they come up with something that is very useful to our teachers in the training. Because sometimes I also get perturbed. You find teachers who are preparing to teach as pre-primary school teachers, they don't have syllabus that look alike. And sometimes when our students go out, they are criticized by other students who belong to other universities. But I feel that this ECDT should come up with something uniform that is going to help all the pre-primary school teachers in this country. Because as they teach in our pre-primary schools, they are teaching Ugandan children, not private children. So that children move on something that is uniform. Taking an example like what is in the teacher education, we have a uniform curriculum, whether the college is private or it is government. They are teaching the same things, and you find that when teachers go out to teach, they are really in line with what they are supposed to do. So I am appealing to the leadership of Ekiditia to move hand in hand with you as the university, so that we come up with something uniform. I'm sure our teachers will really be helped. And also, I don't know why is it because it is some colleges operate on in-service and others pre-service. We would have a uniform time when all these students are recruited into these institutions, and then they do their exams at a specific time. If it is maybe end of year, they all sit these exams at the end of the year, so that they all qualify at the same time. Not having others doing exams in January, you find others doing in May, as if it is something like one semester. I don't know whether that's how it was worked out, but I feel if they had the same time when they do exams, school practice, and then this display, we would have something also uniform going on in these pre-primary schools as compared to those in the teacher education. Thank you very much.
You see, Cecilia, you are keeping quiet, and yet you had very wonderful submissions to make. Thank you so much for your wonderful submissions. And members, unavoidably, I have to end the meeting. I really wanted Dr. Cleophas to say something because he's attending another meeting. He's leaving us. So may kindly allow Dr. Mugenyi to just maybe wave to us, say bye-bye, and then we can wait for his further guidance.
Dr. Kabugo, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for sparing time to attend this meeting. It has been quite educative. We have shared a lot, and I look forward to working with you to ensure that whatever we have agreed on is implemented. God bless you and stay safe. Thank you.
Yes, with those words from Dr. Mugenyi, we want to really thank you for sparing time to engage with us. As you have requested, we are going to, like our practice is, we are going to share the recordings of our webinar with the ministry, and of course the past webinars, at least for sharing purposes, but also to let ministry know that as ECD Fraternity in Uganda, we are doing our work. I think that is what Patrick Ginyakol wants to add on. Patrick.
Hello?
Yes. Yes, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor. And I'm very, very grateful that as a university, you have taken the lead right from those trainings and right now the meeting. And I want to inform you, Doctor, that for us as Nyondo PTC, yesterday we had a very, very fruitful meeting through Zoom with our members of staff. And then on Monday, we are going to have a meeting with the board. But what we are discussing is putting things in place in order to receive our students, our pre-service students. And once we do that, we should also be preparing for the in-service. And for us, we are ready so that life can once again come back. Thank you.
Now, you are ending it really well, Patrick. What we want to listen to, what we wanted to hear from members as university, what we wanted to hear is that you are getting ready to receive your students immediately after the lifting of the lockdown. We wanted, this is the message we want to hear, because it will be ABSAD receiving guidelines from ministry on Tuesday, and then your institution is not ready even after this long. Do what you can at your institutional level. Have you talked to your, if you're a principal, have you talked to your tutors? Have you communicated? Do you know how ready they are to take on their modules? Do you have a plan of interacting with your students? Do you know the next activity? Do you have the files in place? Do you have everything you need in place so that immediately after getting the guidelines, work can resume? Thank you very much, Patrick. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to end the meeting. I was supposed to end the meeting at exactly 1. It's now 12 minutes after 1. Vicent and Gertrude say some concluding remarks, and then we end the meeting.
All right, Doctor, I want to add on your voice to thank our dear Dr. Cleophas, Commissioner, for sparing time to attend with us. And to our participants, please, let's make it our usual task to visit our website. There are lots of resources we have populated on our website for you to engage with your institution and with your students. So please always be updated, always visit our websites, always be active in our WhatsApp groups. There are several lots of information that we do share with you through WhatsApp. So please always be alert. So by the time guidelines are out, we are just ready to move on. I thank you so much.
Thank you, Vincent. And lastly, Gertrude.
Yes, Doctor, I want to thank you for hosting this meeting. I want to thank our dear participants. I also want in a special way to thank our commissioner for being part of us and for bringing in crucial ideas as well as extending them to the ministry. I really pray to our institutions that we continue with this kind of engagement and we act as we agree. I want to wish everyone a good afternoon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, my team. Thank you very much, dear participants. I want you to pay attention to the middle section of the screen, the polling, our polling station. Gertrude, are you able to see that?
Yes, Doctor.
I assume that participants are able to see our polling station. How ready is your institution? We have engaged you on a number of questions, and then these are the results that we are going to share with the Ministry of Education. I will end the poll now at exactly 24 minutes after 1. The polling has ended, and these are the results we want to communicate to ministry. We have had, out of the 22 institutions that have participated in this poll about readiness, 15 out of the 22 actually voted, which constitutes a 68% of the institutions have voted. And this is how you have voted. A 70% of the institutions are saying they strongly disagree, meaning they are not ready at all to reopen, a 7%. Then a 13% are saying they are not ready to open. No one is undecided. So you either assure you are strongly not ready to attend, to open, or you are very strongly ready to open. So no one is undecided. And then a greater 60% of the institutions are saying they agree they are ready to open. And a 20% are saying they are strongly ready to open. When you add the 20% who are saying strongly ready to open and the 60% who are saying who are saying agree to open, that constitutes an 80%. And then a 20% who disagree and strongly agree. So we can conclude, I can take on the role of the returning, is that returning agent or what? Returning officer? Listen,
Yeah.
what do you call that?
Yes. Returning officer.
But the returning, okay. I can, on the behalf of the ECD fraternity in Uganda that's working with Makerere University, declare that a greater 80% of the ECD institutions in Uganda are ready to reopen. I'm going to submit these results to the ministry on your behalf. I would like to thank everyone for participating in this meeting. Thank you very much, and bye-bye to everyone.
Ah, yeah.